In October of 1912, Teddy Roosevelt was shot in Milwaukee. Some madman shot him in the nipple. Teddy Roosevelt came to Milwaukee and was shot in the nipple. He was on his presidential election tour, like his Bull Moose tour. I mean, the story's fairly widely known, right? He gets out of his touring car or something, and this madman appears and shoots him, but the bullet goes through his spectacle case, then goes through the folded up speech he's got in his pocket, and then lodges in his nipple, So Roosevelt's shot and everything, but he's Roosevelt. He's all robust and everything, and he can handle it, and he's like a military guy. He's familiar with gunshot wounds, and he's like, this is no big deal, and he just proceeds to deliver his speech anyway as planned, So that's fairly well known. But I was reading about this guy John Schrank, the guy who shot him. He was just this German immigrant guy who lived in New York City. He was just a Bowery drunk. He lived in cheap hotels on the Bowery. He would tell people he was a real estate salesman, but it was just bullshit. He just inherited all this money from his parents, and he would just live in cheap hotels along the Bowery and go to bars and stuff. He's one of those guys who alcoholic guy at a bar, and then he gets promoted to bartender, and all of a sudden he's a bartender. And so he's just he was just a cranky, drunk guy who would occasionally talk about politics when he had some beers in him or something. But then, according to his diary, he has a dream one night where the ghost of William McKinley appears in his dream and tells him to shoot Roosevelt. It's when's the last time the ghost of William McKinley appeared in your dreams, And so he gets this, and Roosevelt in the dream is dressed up like a monk for some reason. I don't know what that means, but anyway. So Schrank is just convinced that he's got to go kill Roosevelt now. So he drives around the country following, well, actually, he was on a bus. He took buses around the country, following Roosevelt, trying to get the best chance to shoot him or something. And so finally it comes in Milwaukee one day. And then later on in his trial, an alienist proved that he was not insane because he chose to shoot Roosevelt in Milwaukee, which was in a state that didn't have the death penalty, and that showed a certain amount of reason on his part or something. So he was eventually shown not to be insane. But anyway, so he's apprehended in Milwaukee, and he's taken to the police station. He immediately demands a necktie. Schrank just shoots this former president, is taken to the county jail or the city jail, immediately demands a necktie and a checkerboard for some reason, I don't know. Then there's newspaper reporters come and interview him. And among the anecdotes the newspaper reporters got out of him is he claimed that he didn't have any friends in New York, but he claimed he had a girlfriend once. And they asked him what became of his girlfriend, and he said, this was his quote, he said, "She went down on the General Slocum." That's all he said, right? And I'm assuming the General Slocum's a ship. I don't know. But the funny part is he just said, what happened to your girlfriend? And he was like, she went down on the General Slocum. So I kind of like that. But I think my favorite part about the Schrank story was, okay, he's in the jail, right? And they're going to, they've done a bunch of he's in the jail kind of stuff, and they're going to take him over to the safety building to do some safety building stuff. And so anyway, they're trying to get him ready to go over to the safety building. And he says to him, "I don't have a hat. I can't go outside. I don't have a hat." And so this is this is 1912. And so they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess you're right." And so they start looking around the police station for a hat. This guy just shot a former president. They're gonna take him over to the safety building, but he doesn't have a hat on. And so it was just, I love that part. It's in the Edwardian period, if you couldn't just walk to a safety building if you didn't have a hat. That's my story.